his voice boom across Tiger Stadium's public address system, you would never know he was from the heart of Cajun country.
You know, little boy from home in Thibodaux area, he got that flat talk, if you want to do that flat talk, Danny Borne.
First down for the Tigers.
But on fall Saturday nights in Death Valley, Dan Borne's native accent gives way to a more polished and passionate dialect. He's been the voice of LSU sports since the mid-1980s. And truth is, no matter what size the crowd, Dan Borne is a natural public speaker.
What a wonderful storyteller he is. I mean, he's got a million stories, but he's also very good at telling those stories. He can regale you with the story. He's a good mimic. He can not only tell the story, but he can sort of embody the person that he's talking about. When he tells a Russell Long story or an Alan Ellender story or an Edwin Edmonds story, he kind of becomes that person. He's a master storyteller.
And Borne can tell stories about those three major Louisiana politicians with such ease because, well, he's worked for all three. After serving in various public affairs or aide positions for Senators Alan Ellender and Russell Long, Borne came home to Louisiana to work for Governor Edwards. It was while working for the governor that Borne's people skills really began to get noticed.
It doesn't matter what the situation is. He keeps a calm head about himself, and he really knows how to express himself and he finds the words to describe the moment.
In 1978, Borne began his foray into the state's chemical industry, starting as the public affairs manager for Kaiser Aluminum. 10 years later, in 1988, he was hired as the president of the powerful Louisiana Chemical Association, a prominent position that incorporates politics, media, and the state's influential chemical industry.
Dan Borne is such a hidden but important part of the system. He actually is a linchpin in how things work, and he's carefully cultivated that.
While he may exude a regular guy facade, Borne's journey has been anything but regular. While serving as class president at Nicholls State University, he graduated first in his class in 1968. He later came to the LSU Manship School of Mass Communication for his master's degree. Borne would one day become one of the more popular teachers at the Manship School.
The students loved Dan. I always had to kid him about the fact he gave a lot of A's out, but even if he hadn't given the A's, Dan was really loved by the students because he projects well, he knows what he's talking about, and he actually cares about students.
Borne admits he's not a fan of the new blogosphere so-called journalist. Instead, he's always advancing and promoting the genuine craft of journalism and public relations to students and young professionals. Borne cut his teeth in that craft, first in the Public Affairs Department at Nicholls State.
Talks have been in recess since early summer.
And then as Assistant News Director and Public Affairs Director at WAFB TV in Baton Rouge. Borne's also hosted various radio shows in and around the Thibodaux area, plus provided play-by-play and color analysis for high school and Nicholls State sporting events. When not speaking to local civic groups, sitting on boards, or articulating the score of LSU games, Borne enjoys spending time with his wife Lizette and with their 4 children and grandchildren. One of his proudest accomplishments in recent years is becoming a deacon in the Catholic Church.
We now have Deacon Dan, and we wonder, how did Dan get special dispensation? Because he uses a lot of words that you wouldn't think a deacon would use.
Everybody wants to know, has he calmed down since he became a deacon? And I'll tell you, no, he hadn't. He's still the same.
One final tidbit of advice that Borne has always taught, including to his longtime friend and colleague, Bob Mann: always ask for what you want. You never know. Even a Cajun from Thibodaux can become the mouthpiece for the state's flagship university's athletics.
I love the story that Dan tells about how he became the stadium announcer at LSU, and I think that there's a lesson in there that for all of us, and that is to ask. That it's Dan's someone who saw an opportunity and he asked for it, and how often do we miss opportunities that might change our life or enhance our lives or enhance the lives of others because we failed to ask, that we waited to be asked. And Dan took the initiative. Dan asked for the job and he got it, and he wouldn't have gotten it if he hadn't asked.
Ladies and gentlemen, It's the beginning of the fourth quarter. The sun will soon find its home in the western sky, and it will be Saturday night in Death Valley.
Congratulations to Dan Borne, 2013 member of the LSU Manship School of Mass Communication Hall of Fame.